Welcome to episode 16 of the Total Sports Northumberland podcast. I'm Jeff Gard, bringing you interviews each week from Northumberland County and beyond. You can find the podcast each week on the Total Sports Northumberland website and stream or download on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you want local sports news from Northumberland County, check out totalsportsnorthumberland.ca. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. My guest this week is the head coach of the Cobourg Cougars. We'll chat about some team and league news for the Ontario Junior Hockey League Club and his fundraising marathon run this Sunday. Wes Wolf. Wes, thanks so much for joining me again.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Last time we spoke, the junior hockey seasons had just finally officially been canceled, but now, the OJHL schedule for the 2021-22 season has been released. You know, your main training camp is underway, so it must be nice that it's starting to feel like a hockey season again, and you're back in the rink.
It is an incredible feeling. We had our rookie camp last weekend, over 80 players here at the CCC, and then officially opened up our training camp with 35 players this morning. It's just a great feeling to have everyone back in the building playing hockey and getting the opportunity to compete and do what we do. I think everybody's missed it. Obviously, it was unfortunate, everything that's happened over the last year and a half, but it seems like there's a lot of optimism moving forward, so it's been really good.
Tell me again about how you made the most of, even when you couldn't be together as a team, just making the most of even virtual sessions. You had a lot of great Cougars alumni to draw on as guest speakers. Can you tell me a little bit about how those experiences benefited your players?
Yeah, we undertook a 16-week character development program with our players, ranging topics from personal accountability, decision-making, positivity, self-awareness, and we tried to engage as many Cougars alumni as we could that are prominent alumni continuing to play hockey at various levels of hockey. So we had Justin Danforth speak to our team about his journey, and we had some NCAA Division I coaches come on. Josh McGuire, who's also one of our assistant coaches, but former Cougar captain, came on to talk to the team. It was a great way, for one, to focus on some areas of development for the players that often get overlooked or you don't have as much time for in a normal season, and utilize the technology that we had available to connect everybody. I think one of the things that was probably missed the most was just that sense of belonging or feeling like you're a member of a team, part of a group. So I think the opportunity for us to get together on a weekly basis was something that everybody really appreciated, and like I said, I think it'll pay off in the long term. The focus on character development. It was a great way to spend time together every week.
Absolutely. But I want to talk to you about getting back into the rink, so maybe tell me a bit about how rookie camp went. Like you mentioned, a great turnout, and what did you see on the ice?
Well, it was probably a great opportunity more than anything to get our first look at some of the new recruits and returning players, obviously coming in as a new coaching staff, getting familiar with the players that were already a part of the Cougars organization was something that we never really got to do. So we discussed it as a staff that, heading into that weekend, we would hope that there weren't too many surprises, because if there were, it means we didn't really do our jobs or do our homework on the players coming into camp. That being said, it was a very successful weekend. We thought the level of competition was extremely high. I was very impressed with a lot of the young local 16 and 17-year-olds. It was a great first look. We had a information session on Friday afternoon over Zoom with Steve Weidler, the assistant coach at University of Vermont Division I. He talked about NCAA recruiting and eligibility. We followed that up with individual skill sessions. We split the team group into 4 teams So each group got their own skill development session. The following day, a small area games practice for each team. There was also an information session with Corey Cooper, the general manager of the Kingston Frontenacs. He talked about the OHL pathway and what that may look like, them being an affiliate of ours. And then we finished the weekend with four games, 2 on Saturday night and 2 Sunday morning, and then everyone went home. So it was a great way to get some extra information on the younger players who are prospects at this time, but also all the returning players and new recruits who are coming in, that first chance to meet the coaching staff and get back on the ice. So it was a great weekend.
Yeah, when you talk about the different paths for these players going forward, whether it's NCAA or major junior, part of the announcement for the schedule is that Cobourg will once again host the Governor Showcase, which is such a big event for these players. I mean, Cobourg hosted it for a number of years before it moved to Buffalo for a few. It's a big 3 days for the players to play in front of a lot of scouts from various levels of hockey, and even the local fans. It means they get to have the opportunity to see every team in the OJHL over the course of the 3 days.
Yeah, obviously it's a great feather in the cap for the Cougars organization to have the trust from the league to host an event of that magnitude. I think it's something that we take a lot of pride in. The CCC is a fantastic facility. We believe the class of the league, frankly, Canadian Junior A hockey, we're probably one of, if not the best buildings. We're very fortunate to have great staff at the facility here who are accommodating. They were able to work on a short timeline to put together the framework for the plan. And as you mentioned, with the previous history hosting that event and other major events for Junior A, including the RBC Cup in 2017 and the World Junior A Challenge, there's a lot of familiarity here with hosting events. So we're really excited at that opportunity. It's going to mean that not only are all of the league's teams coming into Cobourg for 3 days, but also, as you said, the scouts from the National Hockey League, Major Junior, and NCAA. It's going to be a great 3 days for the Cougars organization to showcase our building, but also, for the town of Cobourg to have that influx of people coming in and hopefully, helping out the economy here coming out of COVID-19. I think that's going to be a great boon for the entire town.
Absolutely. So as part of the schedule release, you open up on the road October 1st in Trenton, and then you host the Wellington Dukes the following night. Where are you right now in terms of your roster? I mean, main camp just started, but how close would you say you are right now?
I think that every coach should always give the answer that they're always looking to improve their team. Obviously, we, as I said, have in excess of 35 players in camp right now. I think we have a lot of hard decisions to make ahead of us. I've been really impressed with the level of talent that's reported to camp. We're still kind of making decisions. Our intention is to have our roster set in place, by early to mid-September. Officially, we're going to Collingwood on September 17th, 18th, and 19th to have a preseason showcase against 5 other teams. We would like to bring our team to Collingwood that weekend. And so over the next 4 to 6 weeks, we have a pretty grueling schedule. Everyone is going to be on the ice at least once, if not twice per day, and several green and white games scheduled. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity for the coaches and management team to evaluate the talent, but also for the players to showcase themselves, and hopefully they make it even harder on us to make those decisions.
Who are some of the players Cougars fans can expect back that they would have seen previously? That being said, it's been a long time.
Well, I think from the 1920 season, which would have been technically 2 seasons ago, the returning members would be George Gutierrez and Eric McNeil. Mm-hmm. We've also brought in, some local players. Tucker Firth is a 20-year-old who's from Cobourg, previously spent Lindsay Junior A. He's now coming home to play for the Cougars. We brought in a number of older veteran players to play on the team. Carter Talk in net, who spent time with the Saginaw Spirit of the Ontario Hockey League, is coming in. Ben Hamilton, a 20-year-old defenseman who was in Wellington. And then we have an influx of younger players who, again, have some local flair. Liam Phillip is from Grafton, a former minor hockey captain in Cobra, and several other younger players who we're very excited to make a contribution to the team.
Can you talk a little bit about your coaching staff? Fans obviously familiar with Josh McGuire, but yeah, just talk about your coaching staff.
As you mentioned, Josh McGuire, former Cougar captain, is coming back to the staff. He's the only stayover. He'll be working with the forwards. Josh is a tremendous role model for the players on the team. Obviously having been through this process and played for the Cougars organization, winning a national championship, but also just his presence, being from the community here, being a role model for the players. We're going to lean really heavily on him to provide some leadership and guidance for these young men. And then we also brought on Connor Cataret, who's from Stouffville originally. He's going to be working with the defense. Very successful coach with the Stouffville minor hockey system. Won OMHA championships and is currently also a coach mentor for their organization. We also have Tyson Teachman, who's going to be our goaltending coach, former OHL goaltender, played for Team Ontario U17 during his playing days, went on to university hockey, so he'll be working with the goalies. And we have Joshua Lemire joining the staff as a hockey operations assistant and director of analytics. We're surrounded by a great team of people here that very fortunate to have as part of the organization, and all the players are lucky to have such great resources.
News last week too, Alex Skinny stepped down as GM, Todd Reed takes over. Just talk about Todd stepping into that role now. I mean, he was already with the organization and he's done the job obviously before in Wellington, but your thoughts on working with Todd?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of continuity. Obviously we were very disappointed to see Alex go. Anytime you can or you lose a person of that caliber is disappointing. That being said, Todd was already doing a lot of the work in the role of director of hockey operations that a typical general manager would do. So I think, from that standpoint, Todd was already very involved in terms of player recruitment and player selection and player acquisition. So I think it made a lot of sense for the organization to simply transition that role on to Todd. As I said, I don't think that there's much of an increase in responsibility. There was already a lot of teamwork with the management team. So I think probably, if nothing else, it just means that Todd's going to have a lot more administrative work to do, taking on the general manager title that Alex did. And he was a great asset to the organization and took on a lot of jobs that are thankless, that sometimes get overlooked. So we've been, doing our best, in my opinion, succeeding at taking on those obligations. Steve Irving has been brought on as Director of Business Operations to assume a lot of that work that Alex was doing. So we have a great team here, and really looking forward, like I said, to that continuity. We didn't have to look very far to make sure that we had those responsibilities filled.
I wanted to ask you too about the relationship with the Frontenacs, how that's going. Obviously, Paul McFarland ended up leaving as head coach and general manager to become an assistant coach with the Seattle Kraken. You mentioned the new GM Corey Cooper, and now Luca Caputi is the new head coach. How's that relationship going?
They were here in attendance at our rookie camp last weekend, along with, I believe, 8 of their draft picks. So, we're really looking forward to building on that relationship. Both of our 16-year-old spots are going to be filled by Frontenac's prospects this season. We're going to rely heavily on them on sharing some resources and making sure that we're making the most of that relationship. As I said, Luca and Corey were here last weekend at camp, along with a couple of their scouts. Bob Breckles, our senior vice president, is also the Ontario midget scout for Kingston. So there's a lot of overlap there. We're going to work closely together to make sure we make the most of that. That the Cougars are doing their part in that relationship by helping prepare some of those players for the next level, and hopefully the resources that we're able to get in return, are ones that benefit not only those players but everybody here.
And as the coach of the Cougars, can you talk about the benefit of also having the partnership with the Port Hope Panthers, obviously, as well, Junior C Club?
It's always great to have, as I said, great people involved. And so, Dave Miller and his staff were actually here as well at the rookie camp, helping out as guest coaches in that capacity. It's always great to have extra hands on deck, and hopefully, as we are doing for the Frontenacs, they're able to do for us with some of the players that may not be successful in making Coburg this year, that they can find a home to play in Port Hope, and that there's some continuity between the two organizations, that there's a development plan in place, and that they have them ready for us in a year's time. And part of my job as the head coach and assistant general manager is making sure that that communication line stays open, that we're providing resources to them, learning opportunities for their players, whether it's through affiliation or attendance at their practices, but also learning opportunities and development for their coaching staff. And so we've been doing our best to get them involved. As I said, his staff is great. They have Connor Armour, former captain of the Cougars, there as an assistant. And they also have Tom Foster, who's a veteran coach. Yeah. And so the three of them will continue to be around the arena, throughout our training camp, giving us assistance on the ice for practices. And as I said, hopefully we have some players that can spend the year with them before being full-time Cougars in a year.
So not only have you been busy preparing for the hockey season, you also got married recently. So congratulations on that, Wes. And you've also been training to run a marathon, a fundraiser as well. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, running has been something that I started taking a little bit more seriously probably 4 years ago, more for, personal wellness reasons, but I think, something that I've really enjoyed. I ran my first 10K race a couple of years ago, and since then I've, started to look at it a little bit more seriously as a hobby. So, I ran a half marathon in 2019 and did a fundraiser when I was coaching with the Erie Otters for victims of a daycare fire. And, with everything going on with COVID, a cause that was kind of at the forefront for me was youth mental health and the effects of all of the lockdowns and not being able to go to school and sports being canceled. So I put together a fundraiser for Children First Canada, who are a foundation that support youth health and youth mental health specifically for this initiative. I started training about 16 weeks ago for a full marathon, 42.2 kilometers. So, I at one point was averaging between 60 and 70 kilometers a week to get ready. I'm looking forward to getting out on the road. It's going to be 4 to 4.5 hours straight of running, and luckily was able to raise over $5,000 for Children First Canada, which is something that I'm very proud of, and hopefully it all goes well.
Yeah, so that's this Sunday. Where are you doing it, and how can people still support if they're able?
Yeah, there is a GoFundMe page listed as K's for Kids Marathon Fundraiser. I've also got it posted on all my social media accounts, my Twitter and my Instagram, a link to the GoFundMe. I'm actually running the race. I'm driving back to Crystal Beach, Ontario, where my summer home is. I did the bulk of my training there and mapped out a route, so I feel most comfortable and safest making sure that I stick with my training plan. So I'm going to drive back Saturday evening and get up early Sunday and run there. Had I been able to move to Coburg earlier, I might have tried to run the race here. But as I said, I'm most familiar with my route there, so I'll be back there for a day and coming back with some pretty tired legs Sunday night.
Yes. I wish you all the best with that. I just want to ask you, like, when you consider what you're running for and, the fact that you're a junior hockey coach, just how have you seen, I guess, the players, because you've been in touch with them the whole time. So how has it been going back maybe a few months ago to now when things are starting to open up, and hopefully that stays and continues, and just to see them back doing what they love?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can't be overlooked or overstated how important this social aspect of being a part of a team is in the development of young people. And I think it was never more apparent than last weekend, seeing the excitement and the level of energy and enthusiasm that was put into the camp. And it's really just continued on since then. As I said, we had our golf tournament this past weekend that had over 70 attendees. Our camp started today. You can really feel the energy. It's palpable that there's just so much excitement at being back. And I think, going back a few weeks, as you asked, definitely having some difficult conversations with players about, what they were going through, whether it was just motivation or having a purpose every single day to their day. Some of that was missing. And I think a lot of us can relate, whether it was working virtually from a distance, not being able to go to the office, not being able to see family, friends. It's been a really hard 18 months. And so, there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. We remain very optimistic that this is sort of the last stretch of all this. Our players are fully vaccinated, as are all the staff, and so we're going to, continue to push forward. And I think it's been really great to see how happy being back it has made everybody.
Absolutely. Well, I know Cougars fans will look forward to once again being able to go watch some hockey at the Coburg Community Center. Thanks again, Wes, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you again to my guest, Wes Wolf, and I hope you enjoyed listening to this week's episode of the Total Sports Northumberland podcast.